So we know what we did today, right? Yes, we talk art. Yes, we talk art. Okay, so today is another wonderful day and I have a very interesting topic for you. So today we are going to be talking about the major art tools. The major art tools. Awesome! My name is Okwemi Richardson Owebo and you're welcome to Blue Blooms Art World channel. In this world, we learn all about art. All about art, and there is content. Always a content for everyone. Awesome! So let's dive into today's topic. So today's topic is on art tools, art tools and materials. So just like ingredients are very important to the chef, so also art tools and materials are very important to the artist and the artisan. So we have different types of art tools and materials, but today I'm going to mention the 7 major art tools. The 7 major art tools that an artist can't do without. Okay, so now these 7 major tools, I'll be talking about them, describing them, and then I will mention how they can be taken care of and improvised for. So improvisation means when you don't have the original material and you're trying to replace it with something you have around you. So I'm going to also be mentioning what you can use in place of these materials if you don't have the original produced materials. Awesome! So let's start. So we start with the sketch pad. Number 1, sketch pad. Now your sketch pad comes in different forms. It comes with different sizes. So now sketch pad is a material that is used for drawing. It is used for drawing in the classroom and outside the classroom, within your space and outside your space. Now this is where you show your ideas, you draw in your ideas. Now when you're using a sketch pad, you use the front and then you flip to the next page and not the back. So there are lots of different sizes of sketch pads, there are lots of different type of pages. Some are called bond, some are called cartridge paper, some are actually watercolor paper. So your sketch pad actually comes with different types of sheets depending on what you're using your sketch pad for. Now we go to how to care for your sketch pad. So first of all, do not squeeze your sketch pad. For example, what I have with me here, imagine I'm trying to fold it, probably I try to tuck it in my pocket. That is very wrong to use your sketch pad like that. Another thing is, be careful, prevent it from water. So don't let water spill on it. Remember, it is paper. So the moment water gets on it, now imagine you have a drawing in it, the water spoils the drawing. Number 3, try as much as possible not to tear out pages from your sketch pad. It's actually a very bad thing to do to your sketch pad. So try as much as possible not to tear off papers from your sketch pad. So you handle your sketch pad with care. We do not have the sketch pad, so what do we use? Okay, so for the sketch pad, you can draw on any material you want. In fact, you can draw on fabric, you can draw on leaves, you can draw on, but the most suitable material to use if you don't have your sketch pad is sheets of paper. So if you have plain papers, you can get those sheets together and you staple with your stapler. So if you don't have a proper sketch pad, you can create yours by getting plain papers or plain cards and then you put together, cut to the same size, and then you staple together. You can use glue if you want to bind it together. So that is how you can improvise for a sketch pad. Awesome, that was interesting, right? So if you don't have the proper sketch pad today, you still can have a sketch pad, you know. Okay, now we go to material 2. Material 2 is the pencil. Would you draw without a pencil? No. Okay, so now in art, the proper pencil is the grade B pencils. Now we have 2 types of pencils. Now we have the grade H and then we have the grade B. Now the grade H pencils are hard pencils, while the grade B pencils are soft pencils. So when you want to draw in art, you use grade B pencils. So why do we use this? We use grade B pencils because it helps you to easily flow with your lines. And also, when you make mistakes, it's easy for you to clean off. And also when you're creating designs, because you have to sketch first, you can easily clean off your sketch. You can easily take off your pencil strokes. Why? Because the pencil is soft. Now, we have our pencils, right? Yes. So how do you care for your pencil? Number one, prevent your pencil from dropping on the floor. Don't let it drop. Prevent it from dropping on the floor or on a hard surface. Now, do you know why? Okay, so now this is because the pencil is made up of a material called lead in between it. That's actually what we use to write or draw. So now when it drops, the lead is actually meant to be straight. Now when it drops, it breaks within this wooden material. So now when it breaks, when it's time for you to sharpen your pencil, the more you sharpen, the more the lead at the tip goes off. The more you sharpen, it goes up. The more you sharpen, it goes up. It's actually a good thing to prevent your pencil from dropping on the floor or on a hard surface. Awesome. We do not have our pencil. So what do we use in place of a pencil? Okay, there are a lot of things we can use in place of our pencil if we do not have it. One is chalk. We can actually use chalk in place of our pencil. Two is charcoal. If you do not have your pencil, you can use charcoal to draw. You can use charcoal to write. In fact, we do know that charcoal and pencil do have the same color, right? Yes, awesome. So we've known about the type of pencil used in art and also how we can care for our pencil and what to use in place of our pencil if we do not have grade what? Grade B pencils. Awesome. We go to the third material, which is the coloring materials. Yes, the coloring materials. Now the coloring materials are in types. So we have crayons, we have paints. So now your crayon can be wax crayons or pencil crayons. So we care for our wax crayon and pencil crayons. For pencil crayons, we care for it just the way we care for our pencils, prevent it from dropping on the floor, on the hard surface. And now for the wax crayon, we care for it by preventing it from direct sunlight. So don't put it where there is heat. Don't put it where there is that direct sunlight. Remember, our wax crayons are made of wax. So if it's exposed to direct sunlight, what happens is that it can start melting or lose its vibrance. So now we have the paint. So how do we care for the paint? So you do not use your paint directly from the bottle. Don't use it directly from the bottle. You use your palette instead. That's another material I'll be mentioning. So for the coloring materials, remember I mentioned the wax crayon, we have the pencil crayons, and we have the paint. The paints are different types. We have poster color, watercolor, acrylic paint. So what I have here is acrylic paint. And then I just mentioned how you care for these coloring materials. So now we do not have the coloring materials. So what do we use in place of these coloring materials? For wax crayons, we can use chalk. Remember we have different colors of chalk. So we can use chalk in place of our wax crayons. Now for our pencil crayons, we can also use chalk for our pencil crayon. So what we use for the wax crayon, we can also use for the pencil crayons. Now for paint. Now because remember, paint is water-based. Paint is a liquid. So now what we can use in place of paint if we do not have the poster color, we do not have the watercolor, we do not have acrylic. So what do we use in place of this paint? Now we can use we can use chalk. We blend the chalk, blend it, crush it, and add little water. Make sure it's smooth, and then you add little water. Then your paint is ready. So if you have blue, green, pink, white, you're good to go. So you have paints from that. Now, two, you can use natural things like leaves, flowers. So imagine you have the hibiscus flower. Now the hibiscus flower will give you red. How? Just get the flower, grind it, just like you want to grind normal leaf. You could add little water, squeeze out the leaf. Now the juice you get from the leaf will give you color red, and your red paint is ready. So you can see now, imagine you get from the green leaf, you get from the yellow leaf, you get from the sunflower, you have complete set of colors. So natural things can also give you paint. So you can improvise for paint from, remember I said chalk, or natural things like leaves, flowers, bark of tree, and so on. Awesome. So if you're there today, you do not have the wax crayon, you do not have the pencil crayon, you do not have paint, you sure do know what you can use to improvise. One more thing, you can also use food colorings to improvise for your paint. Yes, food colorings, they are perfect improvisation for paints. Awesome, right? Now let's go to the next material, which is the palette. Okay, so now the palette is a material that is used for mixing paint. Yes, so we just talked about paint. Remember I said one of the ways you care for your paint is by not using your paint directly from the container, directly from the bottle. So now your palette is the material you use for mixing your paint. So if you want to use your paint to paint a design, to create that beautiful painting you want to make, now what you do is you pick the paint with a palette knife. If you do not have a palette knife, you can use spoon or any flat object. So now you use it to scoop your paint from the bottle, and then you drop it, which is why your palettes always have different sections. So you drop your paint in the different sections, and when it's time for you to mix your paint, you mix in the bigger sections. So that's what you do. And when you want to mix, remember, you mix with your palette knife. You mix with your palette knife. So now palettes actually comes in different forms. Now this palette are the most suitable for children. So we have other palettes that are wooden, that are bigger plastic materials. So we have different types of palettes. Now how do you care for your palettes? So now you make sure now this palette here is not well taken care of. Now you can see there's a gold paint on it. After the artist finished using it, he was meant to clean off the palette. Now when it's time to use this palette again, it means that the new paint you're putting on it might mix up with this color. But now ideally this is what you do. So even if your paint is dry, find a way of scratching it off and making sure you wash your palette. So the best thing to do for your palette, to care for it like a baby, is by washing immediately you're done using. Yes, if you can't wash in water immediately, just soak it in water, or just pour little water into it, and it prevents the paint from getting caked on your palette. So what I mean by caked is dry. It prevents it from getting dried on your palette. We do not have palettes. So how do you improvise for a palette? So you do not have the plastic palette or the wooden palette. So what do you use in place of a palette? Awesome. So now the simple thing is, look for a flat object, any flat object of your choice. It could be an old plate, a plate you're not using in the house again. It could be a wooden slab, just a small piece. You could go for that. It could be a carton, a very thick carton. You can go for that too. And it could be an egg crate, you know. Yes, you can use an egg crate. So you know what an egg crate is, right? So that material that is used for keeping eggs. So you can go for that. And also, that's a plus, you can use your ice cube tray. Yes, so if you have ice cube trays that you're no more using in the house, you can go for that. It's actually a perfect material to use as your palette. That's very creative, right? So if you do not have the palette, you do know what to use in place of that, right? Yes, awesome. So now we go to the next material, and that is your drawing board. Yes, drawing board. Now, I always say, if you want to work, one of the things that gives you freedom is your drawing board. So imagine now I'm in a class and I have to make a quick painting, and I do not have my drawing board. I have a table though. So what happens? It means that I'm going to stain the table. But when you're working on your drawing board, you can easily tape your paper to your drawing board and you work. Now, don't worry if you make a mess on your drawing board. That's what your drawing board is actually for. So you do whatever you want to create on your drawing board, except if what you're making is large and it means that you're going to go on the floor. Definitely you know what to do, right? You use something to cover the floor. So, but if you're doing anything that is within a drawing board, you use a drawing board. Drawing board is that material that serves as a platform for you to create your designs. So you put your paper, you put your card. If it's a fabric you're trying to design and it's just a small piece, you put it on your drawing board and you create your design. You definitely can see the colors on the board. Yes, that shows that the artist actually used this to create a design. So that doesn't mean you can't have another paper pasted on it to work. Awesome. So how do you care for your drawing board? Number one, keep it flat always. If you're keeping it this way, keep it this way against something. Do not keep it where you have something heavy on it. Because the drawing board is made of wood, it can actually get disfigured. It can actually bend. 2, prevent it from water. Remember, your drawing board is made of wood, and sometimes drawing boards are wrapped with a material that is paper-like. So you want to be careful not to have water, you want to be careful not to have your drawing board exposed to water. Awesome, right? 2, do not use sharp objects on your drawing boards unless that particular board is for cutting. So when your drawing board you use for drawing, painting, and the likes, do not use sharp objects on that board, because the more you use sharp objects on it, it creates marks on your drawing board, and then before you know, when it's time to draw, you then have bridges, and it distorts your drawing or your design. Sure, you do understand that, right? Awesome. Now we do not have our drawing board. What do we use in place of our drawing board? So we can use a flat wooden material. So if you have any flat wooden object that is flat, so long it's flat and it could be wood, it could be plastic. So long it's flat and it's big enough for what you want to do, then you are good to go. Plus the fact that you must have in mind that it's something that you can actually stain, because the beauty of the drawing board is that when you walk in it, it allows for freedom, because even if it gets stained, it's a drawing board. It's for that purpose. Do you understand? Awesome. So if you do not have a drawing board today, you sure do know what to use in place of the drawing board, right? Yes. Awesome. So now we go to a material that is very key to paint, and that is the paintbrush. Yes, the paintbrush. Paintbrush is a material that is used for applying paint to that drawing, to that design. So we have different types of paintbrushes. Now your paintbrushes have different bristles. So this is what we call the bristle. So some are soft, some are hard, depending on the purpose of the brush, what the brush is made for. And we have different shapes. Some are flat, some are pointed. What I have here is a pointed type called sable brush. So we have different types of brushes. So how do you care for these cute little things? Yes, so now one, it's what a lot of artists do. So don't keep your paintbrushes in water. So when you're not using your paintbrushes, don't keep them in water. When you use your paintbrush, wash it, take it out. Don't keep it in water, especially like this. 2, wherever you're keeping your paintbrushes, do not keep them with the bristle standing. Keep them with the bristle turned upwards. That prevents the bristle from bending or spreading out. 3, when you're done using your paintbrushes, never leave your paintbrushes with paint. Make sure you wash your paintbrush immediately. So if you just use it and you're done with your painting, don't keep it down and you're like, oh, I need to quickly get something done. Please, in just a matter of seconds, you're done washing your paintbrush. So make sure you wash your paintbrush, and if you have a rag around, just swipe it on the rag to take the excess water on the bristle. Your brushes are like tender little babies. It's also important to apply your paint. So that is how you care for your paint brushes. We do not have paint brushes. So what do we use in place of paint brushes? So now if you do not have a paintbrush, what can you use? One, chewing stick. So you know that olden days, we have people who chew stick. Now there are different types of sticks. So now you can use that. So instead of, now if you do not want to chew it, so what you do is just get something hard, take the tip of that stick, eat it until you get that level of softness you want. Okay, so now another thing you can use in place of your paintbrush is your toothbrush, an old toothbrush that you're not using again, but you go for a very soft toothbrush. So another thing you can also use is foam. Yes, so you can cut foam into different shapes, tie it to a stick that's a wooden short, just a short-sized wood. Tie the foam to the tip, and then you are good to go. So in fact, you can even cut it to the shape of bristle you want. And lastly, we have the natural object you can use in place of your paintbrush, and that is your finger. One little finger, one little finger. Yes, your finger. You do know what you can use in place of your paintbrush today, right? Yes, and if you try all means and you're unable to get those materials, those things you can use in place of the paintbrush, do remember that there is a part of you that you can use in place of it, and that is your fingers. Awesome! Yes. Okay, so now we go to the last material, which is adhesive. So now the adhesive is a material that is used for gluing two objects together. That's putting two objects together. So we all do know that when you apply an adhesive on an object and you put another object on that object with the adhesive, the two materials will sure do glue together. So now we have different types of adhesive, but 95% of all adhesives are in liquid form. So now, how do we care for these cute, important materials? So now make sure you do not uncover your adhesive. So when you're done using your adhesive, you make sure that you cover it. So just take the quantity you need, take it, scoop it on the platform you want to use it, and then make sure you cover it. So now, because adhesive are in liquid form, when they are uncovered for a long time, they can go dry. So when you're not using your adhesive, please cover. Same thing applies to all other types of adhesive. So a lot of us are used to this adhesive top bond. Yes, it's a water-based adhesive. So we have some other types of adhesive like those super glue, but a lot of times artists don't use super glue. So the adhesive artists use a lot of times are the top bond, the Evo stick, the EU glue. Definitely you must have seen me use the EU glue. Yes, the EU glue, the Elmer glue, Mod Podge. So we have different types of adhesives used by artists. So, and then don't forget the major way of caring for this material is actually by making sure that you cover them after use. Now we do not have the adhesive. So what can we use in place of this material? So if you do not have the top bond, you do not have the EU glue, you do not have the Evo stick. So now the very first thing you can use in place of this material is the liquid. That liquid that comes out of the tree. That liquid that comes out of the tree, the bark of the tree, it's called sap. So that liquid actually is a very awesome liquid that can be used in place of an adhesive. It's very, very good. It's very, very good. Though it's hard to find, but it's awesome. So if you have that around your area, it's a very good natural material, natural thing you can use in place of the adhesive. Number 2 is food. So you can use any starchy food as your adhesive. In fact, do you know that you can even blend rice and make it pasty, and you can use it as an adhesive? Any starchy food can be used as an adhesive. Awesome! And the third one is the chew gum. So if you have chew gum, you can actually use it, just spread it out. But though there are some craft activities you definitely cannot use chew gum for, but at least you can use chew gum to put some things, some objects like 3D objects together. Awesome. So if you do not have Evo stick, you do not have EU glue, you do not have Elmer glue, Mod Podge, or Top Bond, you do know what you can use today, right? Yes. So the starchy food in the house that you want to throw away, it's bad, or you're no more eating, or just have a little bit, or you're eating and you know you need glue and you do not have these types of glue at all, just take a little pinch of that starchy food, keep, and then you can use it to glue your material. And then you can use it in place of glue, of an adhesive, when you're creating that masterpiece. Awesome, right? So now you can see the 7 major materials. These materials are major art materials. So I started with the sketch pad, pencil, we have the coloring materials, the wax crayon, pencil crayon, and paint. Then we have the palette that is used for mixing the paint. Then we went to the drawing board, we went to the paint brushes, and the adhesive. Sure, we have learned a lot today. Sure, we do know the major materials today, right? Awesome! That was awesome, right? Yes. So we've learned a lot today and learned about the 7 major art materials today. So if you're an artist, you're creative, and you do not have these major materials, you do know that you need to get them, right? Yes. And one of the major things we learned today is also that if we do not have these original materials with us, there are ways we can get them. Looking around the house, checking our environment. There are natural things, there are other materials tucked around our environment that we can use in place of these original materials. So what material do you find most interesting? Which of the 7 materials are you going to try to improvise for today? Sure, we've learned a lot today, right? If you find my content interesting, please don't forget to like, don't forget to share, and don't forget to subscribe. It sure do go a long way and helps to create more awareness on art. Thank you so very much for always coming back. Till next week. Bye!